chào tất cả các bạn ha. Video clip ngày hôm qua mình có chia sẻ các bạn về cái mức lương 400 đô một ngày và 2.000 cho một tuần. Thực sự để đạt được một cái mức lương này thì một người phải làm rất là nhanh nhẹn và có sức khỏe dẻo dai thì họ mới có thể hưởng được một cái mức lương 400 đô cho một ngày. Nếu một người bình thường như chúng ta thì thực sự cũng không có làm đủ và được một cái mức lương như vậy ha. Nhưng mà các bạn cũng đã biết rằng là cái mức lương căn bản của các bạn là 25 đồng 41 cent cho một giờ làm việc. Thì đó là những cái gì mình chia sẻ các bạn về cái công việc mà những người chủ đang trả một cái mức lương cao để thu hút lao động. Bên cạnh đó thì video clip ngày hôm nay mình chia sẻ các bạn về ông David Littleproud, là Bộ trưởng Nông nghiệp trước của đảng Thủ tướng Scott Morrison, đã có yêu cầu Thủ tướng Albanese là hãy khôi phục lại cái chương trình visa nông nghiệp mà của đảng Thủ tướng Scott Morrison đã phát triển trước đây, để thu hút một cái lượng công nhân không chỉ dành cho 10 quốc đảo Thái Bình Dương và 10 quốc gia ASEAN, để mà cung cấp công nhân ổn định cho vấn đề nông nghiệp, cũng như là cung cấp người cho những ngành giết mổ cũng như là thủy hải sản. Đó là những cái gì cần thiết và đang rất là cấp bách. Ông đã trò chuyện trực tiếp ở Perth, chia sẻ về lý do tại sao cần phải khôi phục lại các chương trình visa nông nghiệp này ha.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is overseas and he's looking to talk to the OECD about us, Australia, helping to feed the world because of global food shortages. But how practical is that in Australia, given we're facing our own labour shortages and we're struggling to get produce off the trees as it is in 2022, plus we're facing cost of living pressures ourselves. David Littleproud is the leader of the Nationals, and he joins us on Perth Live right now. David, thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So practically on the ground, are you trying to reinstate the agricultural visa here?
Yeah, well, look, unfortunately, the new Labor government has abolished it. They just want farmers to have access to Pacific workers. We've already brought in tens of thousands of Pacific workers, and their only solution to Australian farmers is Pacific workers. And that's actually just tying a little bow around the Pacific schemes that we've got. Nothing new. And what we designed was the new ag visa that wasn't just about unskilled workers, it was also about skilled and semi-skilled workers. So while the Prime Minister is saying he wants to expedite visas for construction workers, health sector, aged care sector, which we all agree with, he's saying Australian farmers can't have access to skilled and semi-skilled workers because they can only have access to Pacific scheme. The Pacific scheme is important, but it's run its course and we're competing with other industries in the economy, whereas the ag visa was designed specifically for agricultural workers that gave us unique access to it. So if we don't have those tools, what's happening is you're going to pay the price, and you're paying the price now. You're not paying the price because of the natural disasters that have happened. But farmers are making investment decisions not to plant now because they don't plant unless they can pick. They're not charities. They don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on planting if they're not going to make a quid at the end of it. And so industry groups are telling us that they're only replanting around 60-65% of their capacity because they don't have the confidence of labour at the other end of it. And our meat processing sectors are sitting around 60 to 70% in terms of their capacity as well because they don't have the bodies to come and process the meat. And so Anthony Albanese wants to grandstand on the international stage, and he's doing a good job in flying the Australian flag. I'll grant him that. But domestically, there's some practical applications that he has to understand, is that they've given priority to what the AW have told them, is to get rid of the ag visa, to just let farmers rely on the Pacific scheme, which it means that we're not going to be able to feed the world. In fact, what it means is that our supply is going to go down and your prices are going to go up. So that's what you should remember. And when you go to the checkout every day, when you see that docket, you should see Anthony Albanese's face on it.
So in practical terms, are we just giving up on the notion that local Australians won't go to Donnybrook, they won't go to the wheat belt, they won't go to the wheat silos? We know we're short of backpackers, the backpacker market, but are we just giving up on these jobs being taken up by locals, David?
In essence, we are. But let me just say, while I agree that there has to be some mutual obligation for those that are on the job seeker payment, I was trying to think what the new term of it was, the job seeker payment, you've got to appreciate that 2/3 of those people that go on that are off it within 12 months. The other issue is that that these jobs, particularly in agriculture, are for a short period of time. They're very transient. So you might be unemployed in Perth, but it could be 600-700 k's away where the opportunities are. It could be up in the Ord, and so that for a probably 2 to 3 month window. And not even that. And if you've got family, obviously it's hard to go and move, and you're trying to get employment in your field of expertise. It's difficult to be able to do that. So there's some practical realities of why you just can't go and force somebody to say, go and pick melons in Bowen or go and pick something up in the Ord when you're unemployed in Perth. But there's got to be stronger mutual obligations on it. I agree. Where if you are local and you're unemployed, you've got to go out there and do it. But there is some practical reasons why Australians don't take all these jobs, but in local areas they do. And we've even tried to incentivise those grey nomads. In fact, what we've said as a coalition, if we're elected, we'll let you double the amount of work you can do, particularly to grey nomads, so they can undertake it. And we've even said to university students, you can get your pathway to independence on AB study and OS study if you go and work in agriculture. So you go and earn over $15,000 in one swoop out in agriculture. So you go and have Christmas holidays. Not only do you get your independence of knowing when you go back to uni that you're going to have AB study and OS study support, but you're going to have a fair bit of cash in your pocket to go to O Week and have a good time. So we've tried to incentivise young Australians. We're now saying government should look at older Australians, and particularly the grey nomads, to get to that point where some of our unemployed are hundreds of kilometres, if not thousands of kilometres away from these jobs, to try and get around that. But the ag visa was the way in which we could see the way to build on the Pacific scheme. We brought tens of thousands in that way. But if you don't do that, if farmers don't have the tools, they don't have the investment confidence, supply goes down, your price goes up, and we're not going to be on any international stage feeding anybody.
Right. We'll see what our listeners think here at 6PR. David Littleproud, thanks for chatting to us on Perth Live.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
David Littleproud, the leader of the Nationals. What do you reckon? Now, there's some politics in all of that. There's the head leader of the Nationals having a pot shot at Anthony Albanese while he's overseas on, Mr. Albanese saying we want to feed the world. Practically, though, we don't want to take the jobs up ourselves. Australians don't want to do it. I've yet to hear one grey nomad ring this station and say, yes, I'm going around Australia, and while I'm going to go, I'm going to break my back in a cotton field somewhere, or it's getting fruit off trees. You don't hear anybody saying that, I don't think. But I've got a couple of kids who are in the category who could go bush and pick fruit, and they're hardworking kids. They're uni kids. They're in their 20s, and they have 3 part-time jobs in the city. There's plenty of work in the city in retail and in hospitality, and that's what they do. And they work hard. My two, they don't want to go to Donnybrook to pick apples. They work hard up here in the city and spend the money on going out with their mates. It's a circular argument, isn't it? It just keeps coming around. Do we need to bring back the agricultural visa, as the Nationals are suggesting? It's probably by definition expected that unions in Australia would try to protect Australian jobs. That's what they do. But that's a worry. Farmers now saying we are only going to plant 65% of our crop. That's not going to feed the world. That's barely going to feed us, I would have thought, and we still don't want to do the ag jobs ourselves. Call us 133 882. There's no easy answer here, is there?
Các bạn cũng đã vừa xem một cái video clip mà ông David Littleproud có trò chuyện trực tiếp với đài PHÁP để mà chia sẻ là lý do vì sao phải cần khôi phục lại cái chương trình video nông nghiệp. Mình cũng xin kết thúc video clip này ở đây. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào những video sau của mình nha. Xin thân ái và chào tạm biệt. Bye bye.